Hey there, Dr. Rock here. Welcome back to my channel, my live stream. I'm here every week, watching live, watching recorded. It's really nice to see you. I'm a lifestyle medicine physician at Rock Your Life. And this week, I'm here to talk about running. Running. And I will tell you now, some of you may be listening and saying, "Well, what, I hate to run, or I love to run." There's a lot of different opinions on running. Why am I talking about this? Well, I just want to share my own experience. Running is something I never enjoyed ever since I was a child. They used to make us run the mile in school, and I would get my mom to call me out sick. And I had one teacher in fourth grade, and she called my mom and she said, "Are you sure he's sick? He did this 6 months ago, and when we ran the mile last time." And so I ended up running, I think. Not that day, but they made me make it up. But running was a chore, right? Running was this horrendous chore. Um, I would run, periodically on a treadmill generally when I felt so motivated to go to exercise or go to the gym. And I've talked about this before, I've written about this before, but exercise was a chore. And so going to like a big box gym and standing in line for a treadmill, like the week of my birthday was, or maybe the week, the week before my birthday, and then maybe the week after. That was a regular occurrence. I didn't enjoy running. I tell you, I would get like partway through and something would start hurting. My knee would start hurting, my foot would start hurting. And so it was sort of a punishment, a self-inflicted punishment is what it felt like. And then the challenge was just to get through it. Like, okay, I got to finish this. I would set a goal of like, 1 mile, and then eventually 2 miles, and then eventually I don't want to do this anymore miles. So what changed? Well, a couple things. Because now I run regularly. I run, at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, and I still have some like resistance that I will catch myself, but then I quickly remind myself of all the reasons that I enjoy running now. And so how did I go from someone who lifelong like hated it and avoided it, or did it as a self-inflicted punishment, to now someone who regularly does it? In fact, I consider it a really important part of my self-care is my regular runs. All right, so let's break it down. Okay, so first of all, why would you even want to become a runner? And why did I want to become a runner? Um, and this is where I think a lot of times people have, as Dr. Michelle Seeger, who was recently on our podcast, says, have the wrong why. So you may be telling yourself, like I used to tell myself, I should be running because it's good for me, because it's good for my heart. It is. I don't know why I made that face, but it's really, these things are not untrue. Like, it is very good for you. Running is one of the best, aerobic exercises you can do. Good for your vascular fitness. Um, Not necessarily good for weight loss, good for weight maintenance. Um, there's a whole reasons behind that. We could talk about that, but that none of this is untrue. It's just that that's not how human beings operate. We don't operate with logical facts like that and things that might benefit us in the future, right? This is why so many unhealthy things have a leg up, because they feel good in the moment, right? So Haagen-Dazs feels really good in the moment. And so how do you, so then it goes back to like, what should your why be? And your why should be, I'm not going to tell you what it should be, but like, it should be, I want to feel good. Okay. I want to take up this form of movement because I want to feel good. And for me, I had like example in my life, right? I had my my wife is a runner. And when I say that, I mean she's run for many, many years, like since she was in school and high school. I think she was in like cross country. And then she's running marathons and half marathons, and she's not an avid racer per se, but she goes running like several times a week, and sometimes just loses track of time. Like she'll come back an hour and a half later, and she's like, "Oh, I just," and that baffled me. I was like, "How do you?" I remember I was like working to get through the run. Like I was like, "When is this going to end?" So I was like, "How do you get lost in something that is torture? Huh? What if it doesn't feel like torture for her?" And of course it doesn't, right? For her and for people who run regularly, it's an exhilarating experience and it feels good. And so I had to take a step back. And thankfully, I had some motivation, some external motivation, some internal motivation. So I've talked last week on this stream, I talked about how started doing these obstacle course races. And one of the things, those races are centered around different obstacles, but they're 5K, 10K, 20K. There is some distance involved. You're not running the whole time, but you're running parts of it, and you need that kind of endurance. And as I shared last week, each time I would do those races, I've done those races in the past, I get terrible cramps in my calves, and it kind of incapacitates me, but I've always finished. So proud of that, but would like to stop getting the cramps. And so it was around that time that I started doing these races, 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, okay, maybe I should run more. Okay. So I had some motivation to start running more. So I just started running more. And lo and behold, as I started running more, I would get pain in my knee, I would get pain in my foot. I didn't really enjoy the process of running. And so uh, I had to pull back and ask myself, you know, this is when I saw Michelle Seeger speak. And I said, whoa, this has got to become a gift in my life. This has to feel good. And so then it was like a whole exploration. Like, how do I make running feel good? Okay, I'm gonna slow it down. If I ever feel like it doesn't feel good, give yourself the liberty to go ahead and walk. This is the walk run. This is like there's programs like there's like the couch to 5K, and it will have you alternate periods of running or jogging with periods of walking. And you don't have to use a formal program. You kind of just listen to your body, although some people like having cues, and a program might push you sometimes more than you would push yourself. But you may not be up for that. And so just listening to your body, I usually, even now, even when I run regularly, there are times when I get started and it's like I'm 5, 6 minutes in, and I'm like, my legs are feeling really sore or tight today. Maybe something I did earlier in the week, and I just give myself the the liberty to start walking. You know, it's not meant to be a punishment. Um, and then you sort of ask yourself, like, what could elevate this experience? What could make this experience more enjoyable? Um, and in asking that, I started thinking like, well, when I'm listening to really energizing music, like I tend to like want to run, like I can feel in my body, right? So I spent some time then really like picking out and making a running playlist. And whatever, if you use a streaming service, you can make playlists for anything. They have playlists too. You can search. I mean, I found one on Apple Music that was like this indie rock running playlist called Race for the Prize, which I think was named after the Flaming Lips song. um Even though that wasn't on the playlist. That's an aside. But I remember listening to that playlist, and every time I would listen to it, it would just like, I knew the songs really energized me. Um, so it really got me in like the headspace to run. Okay, and then I said something else, headspace. I had started my meditation practice like 8, 9 years ago using that app, Headspace, and it was around the time that I started running more. And honestly, like my gym closed during the pandemic, everyone's gym closed, and so that really made me look outward and sort of say, okay, well, I'm going to run more. How am I going to make this enjoyable? So it was run walking. It was just checking in with my body. This is the awareness piece I talk about, right? This is understanding, like, is this causing me pain? Is this something that feels uncomfortable? And then getting really curious, like, as to why. So, why was I getting knee pain? Why was I getting foot pain? Right? Was there something with my footwear? Was there something with my asymmetry with my in my body, with my hips, and I'm not going to get into that now, but these are a lot of things I discovered about myself and things that I started working on, things, more mobility work and flexibility work, and um, working on strengthening certain parts of my body, my hips, for example. And all those things led to less and on now really no discomfort when I run. So, it didn't happen overnight, but it happened with a recognition that there are people who are able to do this and they enjoy it. And not only do they enjoy it, they feel so much better at the end than when they started. And right there was like the thing I was looking for. I was like, how do I end the run feeling better than when I started? How do I end the run feeling better than when I started? And so it wasn't being like an immense amount of pain or being so fatigued that I couldn't talk or walk anymore, right? I mean, it was really about being kind to myself. It was really about listening to my body and making the whole experience just enjoyable. And from the music, and then speaking of headspace, I think one of the biggest things that has benefited me is the Nike Run Club app. Okay. And so it's a free app. It's sort of free because they show you it's an ad for for Nike, but they don't charge for it. Um, and they have all these guided runs. They have all these wonderful guided runs. And there's some of the guided runs, although they're a little harder to find now, but they're hidden in if you go to all runs, are these mindful runs that are led by Andy Puttycombe of Headspace and Coach Bennett, he's a running coach, and they have these wonderful conversations. They have one on running on empty, and it's a 30-minute run where you just sort of feel depleted and acknowledging that, and then somehow you feel more energized. At the end, they have this running towards your goals. It's a 45-minute run where you're sort of all of these you're reflecting on these things that in your life. I mean, I honestly find them like therapy sessions. So that's why I do one of these guided runs every week. And one of the things they say at the very beginning is, to really like slow it down, especially at the beginning. They say you're going, Coach Bennett says you're going from running to not running. So your body's not used to this. So really like ease into it. Go at a very like, they'll say go at a 2 or 3 effort. You're not really pushing yourself. You're just allowing your body to kind of warm up and get into that groove. And then yeah, you get into that groove. I notice, I mean, it's variable, but like after about 10, 15 minutes, like the tightness in the body, the kind of discomfort that you may have been feeling at the beginning. And there is still a little of that. But you slow down, you walk when you need to, and then those things sort of, as your body warms up, and then you start to release. This is the magic. This is why I wanted to start in like running regularly, because after about that 10, 15 minute mark, and there's no, I mean, it builds throughout the run, but you start to feel some of the positive chemicals that your body releases in response to this, right? So we always talk about endorphins. It's unclear if endorphins are actually why we're feeling pleasurable or uplifted during bouts of movement, because endorphins don't really cross the blood-brain barrier very well. But we do release opiates, mild opiates, right? It's in response to like the discomfort. We release some naturally occurring like chemicals that reduce pain. We release cannabinoids, and endocannabinoids, like so internally created um, uh, cannabinoids, right? That bind the same receptors that like THC or marijuana does, but you're producing that internally. Um, and so you're literally getting, I mean, and then your muscles are producing compounds and hormones as well. So you're literally getting this, release of all these positive chemicals, all these chemicals that make you feel good. And then, of course, that's sustained. So you'll go 15 minutes and you start to sort of ease into the run, and this is happening. 30 minutes later, another 15 minutes later, like body has warmed up. It's almost like I feel like the legs are sort of just moving on their own. Like it's hard to describe. Um, like you almost like I'll stop and then like the legs just want to keep going. The first time I experienced this, 4 or 5 years ago, whenever I was starting to run more, I was like almost in disbelief. I was like, oh, I've already run so much and I want to run more. Like that doesn't make sense to me. This is always the activity I just wanted to stop. So, but then you're feeling like these, um, and you're listening to really good music, or you're running with a friend. That's the other thing, to make it enjoyable. I schedule runs periodically with friends. Sometimes meet some friends in the morning, early morning, or sometimes on the weekend. But it's um, it's like anything else, when you're doing like I'll be running with a friend, I won't even notice sometimes how far we've gone or how long we've been running. And some of that discomfort at the beginning that you're sort of easing into, um, it kind of gets missed from the fact that you're enjoying yourself with conversation with someone. And the fact that you can even talk. So I use that as a gauge too when I'm running with someone is, we call the talk test, which is if you can hold a conversation, if you can talk, but not sing. So if you can sing and talk, that means you're going a low intensity. If you can talk but not sing, that's a moderate intensity. And if you can't hold a conversation, that's a vigorous intensity. And so you're really aiming for moderate intensity. So I will gauge that when I'm running with a friend, is if like we can be conversing. And if we can't, especially early on, I will say, oh, we need to slow down. Like the fact that I'm like having a hard time catching my breath, and this is not a sustainable pace for me. And it's taken time for me to recognize that. In the past, if I went running with someone and they were going slightly fast, I would just push myself to keep up, and I would say, no, no, you just got to do this, like, and probably feel miserable doing it, and then at some point like have to stop because it just wasn't sustainable. And so what I've learned is, no, actually at the beginning, just check in with your body. It should be a comfortable pace. Body should feel good. Everything should sort of open up and warm up. And so, yeah, that's really changed the dynamic. It doesn't hurt anymore. It makes me feel good. I feel better at the end of the run than when I started the run. And yeah, it's just become an enriching experience. I mean, the last thing I'll say about how is use then I don't I mean, sometimes I run on a treadmill, like, but very rarely these days. Like, it's really I use it as an opportunity to go explore different places. I do these Spartan races on trails. So now I've started trail running, and there's all these trails I live around. And so I will just go exploring. I'll just go explore different trails. And all the more reason why, the act of continuously running is less important to me now. Like, I will be on a trail and then going uphill, and it's like, well, I can't, I'm just gonna hike up this basically. Like, still getting a good workout, still feeling really good, still preparing for those races, still seeing lots of beautiful things, but not necessarily continuously running the whole time. And at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Like, what matters is all those other things, that I feel good and that I'm doing something that's good for me, and that's sustainable and enjoyable. Yep. All right. So that is the why, what, and how of the roots awareness and kindness of why you might want to, if you don't like to run, why you might want to kind of flip the script and think about how you might enjoy running. Um, yeah. And of course, if you don't like running and you have some injury, or, by all means, don't run. There's many other ways to, uh, to move. And if you found something else that feels good for you, and you get your heart rate up, and you get those benefits, and it feels good to you, then by all means do that. Um, yeah. But if you have passed aside running, if you've thrown it aside and said, running is not for me, this is just an opportunity to ask yourself why. Why do I feel that way? And could it be different? And I think it could be. All right. Well, I will see you back here next time. If you are interested in leveling up your health journey, you can visit my website. I run health education groups called tribes, where there is group support and accountability. And we have one tribe for plant-based eaters. If you're working on being a plant-based eater and want to do that more consistently, that's the tribe for you. We have 2 spots left. I have one tribe for uh, heart health. So if you're working on doing all the things you can do to maximize the health of your heart and your cardiovascular system, then that's the tribe for you. And I'm starting a third tribe next month, and that is the men's peak tribe. And that's going to be a men's health tribe, really peak performance, peak health. And so if you're interested in any of those, you can visit my website, and there's a waitlist form that you can fill out. And I will see you all here next time. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate your time and attention. Take care.